the lowest wind instrument in the band, as well as the biggest. This is the tuba, or this baby right here. And it's what I'll be going over today. The tuba has a few things to it, so to start off, I'll tell you what types of tubas there are, and a little bit of the history behind them. Then, I'll move into how to play it a little bit, as well as some music theory, which, granted, I know sounds scary, but it's a lot less frightening than you think, because in reality, it's just how to read the music. And then finally, I'll get into some acoustics, which are very important to someone who plays the tuba. I'm going to tell you about the few different types of tubas, but first I'm going to tell you about some of the history, because it's rather interesting. Now, let's start from the beginning. The tuba was actually fairly new, being made on September 12, 1835, which is so young, in fact, compared to something like the trumpet, it's like a newborn baby compared to a grandpa. But what did the first tuba look like? Well, the first tuba actually looks something like this. As you can see, it's more like an oversized French horn than anything. But the real question is, what instrument played the bass role in the band before the tuba? Well, Yamaha, the tuba manufacturer, states that it was actually an instrument called the orthocidal serpent. And it looked something like this. As you can tell, why it has serpent in its name is fairly obvious. But this instrument shares a few similarities with the tuba, such as its large mouthpiece, which is where you buzz your lips to produce most of the sound, and its large bell, which is just the ending of the instrument where the sound comes out. Now, let's talk about a few different types of tubas. I'll start with the tubas that I have played, personally. I have played 2 tubas, but technically 3, depending on who you ask. I have played tubas like this as a main majority, this is called a 3-valve concert tuba. Now, there are many other types of tubas, which I have never played. One of them being the sousaphone, which looks something like this. As you can see, instead of being carried or sitting in a chair, it instead rests on your shoulders and is used for one purpose and basically one purpose only. That is marching. And you mainly only see them in college marching bands because they are quite expensive. But being able to have your tuba on your shoulders gives you so much more ability to your feet, and it makes it a lot safer for everyone else around you if the tuba player can walk. Now, let's get into a little bit of music theory. We'll start off with some of the first notes that you'll ever learn how to play, and the names of them. The first note that most tuba players learn how to play is called the B flat, which is literally just blowing into the instrument and having no valves pressed down, and this formation is called open. Sounds like this. You will then learn how to go up the scale, which the letters are B, C, D, E, F, G, then it repeats itself back to A, and then another B flat at the top. This sounds like this. As you can see, the B flat repeats on the top B flat, and the changing of the notes is called octaves. Now, the real hard part of the tuba comes when you're reading the music. Because reading the music can't be just simple and have the notes on the staff. The staff, by the way, is just this, and it's what the notes go on to. But we can't just have them on the staff, we have to have them below the staff because we play so low. By golly, I hate that. But it gets complicated because we have to look at the lines above and through the notes instead of just seeing how high they are on the staff. I mean, until we get to a G, which looks like this, we can't even get on the staff. So we'll just use like C as an example. This is what it looks like to have a C written on our music. As you can see, there is one line above the C and one line through the C. And we have to see all this in a matter of about 1 second and figure out that it's valves 1 and 3, and then finally play it. Now, this is especially annoying when you're playing a low F and a low A that look like this. As you can see, there is only one line above them that is different, with a low F having 3 lines above it and a low A having 2. And this is especially annoying when you're playing 16th notes and going faster than you can humanly go. But this brings me to my next point in my little music theory crash course, which is time signatures and just time in general. So now I will explain what beats in a measure are. To make this simple, I will be doing everything in the time signature of 4/4, which just means there is 4 beats per measure. And there's a few different types of lengths of notes you can have. There's the whole note, which takes up the whole measure, the half note, which takes up half the measure, the quarter note, which takes up a quarter of the measure, and so on and so forth. I hope you get the point. Now, I wanted to talk about a little something called acoustics. Acoustics are very important whilst playing any instrument, but especially the tuba, because you get a much larger and louder sound, and you want as much of this sound, if possible, to be directed at the audience. This is why, if you've ever been to an Egan band concert or an Egan football game and you've seen the marching band, you see either white paneling behind us at a band concert or all our instruments directed straight at the home fans. This is to make sure that we don't lose sound behind us where there is no one there. But the real question is now, what are acoustics? Well, according to Sciencing.com, acoustics are basically when the sound bounces off the walls depending on the surface composition. So if your walls, ceilings, floors are made of a much denser, thicker surface, then it's more likely to bounce back. But if they're made of a softer surface, it'll most likely get absorbed by the surface. An example of this to show is I'm going to throw this tennis ball at that tennis racket. As you can see, when I throw it at it, the amount of force I throw in almost comes back with the same amount. This is because the tennis racket is so hard, very little gets absorbed into it. Versus something like throwing a tennis ball into a couch. As you can see, when I throw this tennis ball into the couch, it doesn't bounce back very far. This is because the couch absorbed all the force. It's the same thing for things like caves. Caves are so dense and have so much very dense material around them, that's why they have such a loud echo. Fun fact. But now you may be asking the question, what type of room do you want to play an instrument? Well, the most preferable area would be something called a dead room. This is a room with no sound reverb, so the notes that you play come out very non-echoey when you hear them back. This type of room is something like a bedroom, like I'm in right now, even though you can't tell. Something with carpet and soft walls would be preferable. So, now that we have finally made it to the end of the video, I want to leave you with a quote, because sometimes it didn't really sound like I liked playing the tuba much, which, granted, I didn't in the beginning, but now I agree with something Roger Bobo said, the famous tubaist. You know, tubas don't always get the limelight, but I will say this for sure, tuba is one hell of a thing to play. God, this thing's heavy.